Sir, I have a question.
जी जरूर जरूर जरूर।
अच्छा सर, देखें जो ब्लॉकचेन टेक्नोलॉजी है उसने हमें एक ऐसी ट्रांजैक्शन मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम दिया है जिसमें आप टेम्पर प्रूफ ट्रांजैक्शंस कर सकते हैं। इस फीचर को अगर हम सप्लाई चेन मैनेजमेंट में लेकर आते हैं तो उससे कौन सी प्रॉब्लम थी जो सॉल्व हो गई है, या हमें क्या बेनिफिट क्या हुआ? मतलब
जी
क्रिप्टो करेंसी में तो चले हमें समझ में आता है कि हमने चूंकि सेंट्रलाइज्ड कोई रखा नहीं हुआ था और ट्रांजैक्शंस जो हैं वो हो रही थी, ओपन उस पे हो रही थी और उसको टेम्पर प्रूफ करने की ज़रूरत थी। लेकिन ये सिस्टम्स तो ऑलरेडी इस्टेब्लिश्ड हैं और वेल नोन हैं और ऑलरेडी चले आ रहे हैं, तो हाउ वुड यू पुट दिस, आई मीन, इन फ्रंट ऑफ एनी existing supply chain management system and start rejecting it and proposing your, I mean, value addition?
जी देखिए इसमें जिस तरह से हमने अभी जस्ट सॉ 2-3 एग्जांपल्स। वन इज द ट्रेसेबिलिटी एंड विजिबिलिटी, like anybody who is actually, let's say you make a regulation that any food item that you eat must be supported by a blockchain based supply chain technology. So let's say there is this regulation by the government of Pakistan or by any other government that it got to be supported by blockchain, that it's an append only block of information that runs from the source where you are sourcing the raw material and all the controlled environment and the inspectors actually who goes and inspector who goes and checks and whether that particular organization is meeting the regulatory requirements or not, and that gets appended into the blockchain. And so once you as a customer will be more comfortable in eating or buying something where you have this kind of visibility. So that's why, because of the traceability and the visibility and the transactions and the most important, smart contract. Like if there is any conflict in supply chain management players, across supply chain management players, it is very difficult to settle your disputes. But if it is governed by a smart contract, ठीक है, so the contract can invoke itself by somebody not supplying the item at right time or of not right quality and not has been kept in a controlled environment, then he is penalized automatically. So it has like limitless, from my perspective, it has limitless benefits depending upon the type of block supply chain. Obviously, it may not be valid for every supply chain management system, but for many, it makes a lot of sense to have blockchain technology in supply chain management. And that's what we are seeing as well, that many organizations are now primarily sponsoring, evaluating the blockchain technology for their supply chain management use case. ठीक है ना? So,
Thank you.
रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन में थोड़ा सा था
जी प्लीज।
सर इसमें अभी डिफरेंट, लेट्स से अगर एक इंडस्ट्री के अंदर डिफरेंट सेक्शन है, एक सेक्शन ने अपनी एक जॉब कंप्लीट की है और उसको अपनी फिनिश करके नेक्स्ट सेक्शन में भेज दिया, बट उनका स्टेटस अपडेट हो जाएगा कि उनकी तरफ से जॉब कंप्लीट है।
यस।
अब नेक्स्ट सेक्शन में अगर उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट रन टाइम पे चेंज हो जाती हैं या लिटिल बिट मॉडिफिकेशन फिर रिक्वायर्ड है, तो नेक्स्ट स्टेप फिर रीआइटरेट करेंगे या क्या करेंगे उसमें?
देखिए ये this will be governed by the smart contract, like what the contract says, what is your understanding among the two departments. Like something is not quality control, like the quality people have said like this thing has this problem. Okay, so there may be something to do with the measurements or something to do with the craftsmanship, and it is part of your contract that if any such thing happens, it has to be returned to the previous department. Okay, so the things will be governed by a smart contract that primarily will take over. It says no, it has to be returned because the contract says like if it does not fit into these specifications, it has to be returned. Will there be any penalty? Like if it is just part of the same organization, obviously there is no penalty. But if it is part of two different organizations, okay, and somebody is supplying you with this finished component, and giving it to you, and once you evaluate it and you figure out that this is not to the right specification, that it has to be returned back with some penalties, obviously. So this is how this will work. So always keep in mind the central place of the smart contract that is governing all the issues in your supply chain management protocols. So that is important.
सर एक सवाल इसमें ये है कि इसमें ये जो एग्जिस्टिंग केप है सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स का, ये चलेगा कि नहीं? उनके लिए कोई और किस्म की लैंग्वेज और चीजें सीखनी होगी? बाय द एंड ऑफ द डे स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट आम बंदा तो करेगा नहीं ना
जी। अच्छा, इसमें ये है कि लाइक डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द प्लेटफॉर्म यू यूज, देयर आर डिफरेंट प्लेटफॉर्म्स and different platforms are using different languages. Even there is one in Python, then IBM has its own, Ethereum has its own language, but those are very easy to learn languages, and they are called Turing complete languages, which primarily gives you the ability. But if you think of a contract, it is nothing but if then else statement. If this happens, then this will happen. So it is not difficult to code. A smart contract is not difficult to code. It is just a bunch of if else statements.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so if we continue learning about the supply chain, so we are discussing this paper which got published in April of 2021, and people are, as I mentioned earlier, like IBM has heavily invested into a framework, and it is providing these services to different organizations that they can come and convert your supply chain into a blockchain enabled supply chain. And then they have some very strong use cases where they're investing heavily on those. But then it is just true for many use cases. And this paper specifically talks about the clothing and textile industry. And then these are usually the different players or the nodes or the stakeholders, which one is producing fiber, the other one is producing yarn, the third gets the yarn and it produces a fabric, and then there is one who is going to produce the apparels, and these are the apparels that goes to retailers and then to the customer. So these are some of the stakeholders. And so blockchain primarily is used to bring traceability into this whole process, and this traceability is maintained by creating an information trail, by ensuring security and data mutability. Mutability, remember that you cannot just go back and amend any record in the blockchain. So blockchain-based traceability enables secured information sharing, facilities product quality monitoring control, operation monitoring control, real-time data acquisition, transparency and visibility throughout the supply chain. So there are many benefits that it primarily provides. And so this is the scenario. Like we know that there are fashion brands. I know for denim jeans are produced in Pakistan. In Bahuman, there is this big factory, Crescent Bahuman Limited. They are producing denim jeans, and denim is a big brand, we know. So they are producing denim jeans for big brands, multinationals. So the fashion brands basically decide the upstream partners and supply chain configuration based on various factors, including low-cost manufacturing location, where are they, so they identify them. As we know, a lot of work has moved from Pakistan to Bangladesh because they are continuously, just evaluating from where they can get the best deal. Definitely, they are concerned about the supplier track record and also the consumer market, as they have to ship that product into the market. So there are many considerations for a fashion brand to select that where they want to manufacture. But this is, a bigger picture that every transaction. So even in supply chain of cloth manufacturing or production, a block would have multiple transactions, and as you see, and I was talking to you about that how a transaction hash is also taken. So they are just producing fingerprint of the transaction, may be a big transaction which has an invoice in it, or may have like more information about the clothing which is being produced. So usually a hash of every transaction is taken, and then it basically you keep joining these hashes. So the transactions are hashed and the hashes are hashed. Hashes are hashed and until you just reach to one hash, and which is the root hash or Merkle tree root. And we will be spending some time in learning about that, how this is done and why it is done. So let's just pen that, but remember that usually in blockchain, there are transactions, and the transactions are hashed to figure out which transaction is part of this Merkle tree, or if your transaction is part of the Merkle tree or not. And this gives an easy searchable provision to you to find out whether a particular transaction is part of the block or not. So, but here is a smart contract, and as I mentioned, smart contract is central to this whole thing. And the ledger is primarily a database which is doing all the recording. So there is this shared ledger which has many of these blocks, and so these are like some of the players, and they are peer-to-peer network. They are connected with each other, and they may also be connected to the external world, which is manufacturers which are producing fabric and apparels. There are cotton farms actually, which is providing cotton to the manufacturer and to the yarn manufacturer. There are auditors which are just auditing everything, making sure things are happening as per the regulations. And then there is an retailer who has an ordering service, and governing all these, the interaction is a smart contract. Okay, there is a smart contract which basically governs all their interactions. And then there is a shared ledger that every transaction, every event that happens among these players is being stored in a shared ledger, and everyone has visibility to the ledger. And because it's a permission blockchain, you may or may not want to have everybody have the same visibility. So you can control, if you are a retailer, you can control what type of visibility you want to give to anybody, or if you are actually a manufacturer which is producing fabric and apparel, so you can control the visibility of different players into this network. But this constitute a network primarily where you are using blockchain to do the supply chain management.
सर क्वेश्चन लास्ट स्लाइड पे सर, ये जो स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है सर, बेसिकली ये किन एंटिटीज के दरमियान में होगा? लेट्स से सर, ये मैन्युफैक्चरर एंड कॉटन फार्मर के दरमियान है, या सबका एक जेनेरिक है?
This is a contract which has different clauses, and where it may be some of the clauses may concern the cotton farmer and the manufacturer, right? Some of the clauses may be the retailer and the manufacturer, and some may be with the retailer and the cotton farmer as well. And the retailer is very cautious about from where the cotton is being produced and from where is provided. So it depends that how concerned a retailer is, which basically is the fashion brand which is selling. So let's say it is Lead Jeans, and he is very concerned about the cotton being produced and sent from a particular farmhouse, and he wants to make this part of the contract as well, that he wants this visibility as well, that the cotton is coming from these farmers or these farms. And so the manufacturer is forced to buy the cotton from the cotton farmer, which is being a part of the contract and part of the designation. So, it enables, this blockchain enables this type of traceability and visibility, and smart contract ensures that it is not being violated. And once a cotton goes from here to here, the first block, so to say, is created in the blockchain network. Yes, this amount of cotton has gone from this to the manufacturer. ठीक है ना? So today, जी please.
सर आपने अभी कहा है कि ये परमिशन ब्लॉकचेन है, तो उसके अंदर हम बेसिकली ये कंट्रोल करेंगे कि हु गेट्स टू बी अ पीयर इन दिस ब्लॉकचेन. लेकिन वंस समबडी इज अ पीयर, फॉर एग्जांपल ये कॉटन फार्मर भी एक पीयर है और जो रिटेलर है वो भी एक पीयर है, तो उनके पास तो पूरा ब्लॉक, सारी ट्रांजैक्शंस, और जब तक वो उसका सारों का हैश नहीं जाएगा तो वो तो उनको वेरीफाई नहीं कर सकेंगे डेटा.
नहीं, देखिए, एक है कि obviously once let's say the first block is generated by the cotton farmer, that this amount of cotton, ठीक है, and this quality amount is being transacted to the manufacturer. तो ये यहाँ पे, yes, this transaction, you give this visibility to, let's say, everybody. But then once the manufacturer is sending something to the retailer, you may not want the cotton farmer to have visibility into the transaction. So you can encrypt that transaction, which can only be decrypted by the retailer and the manufacturer. So, yeah, so it gives you access control. Yes, you are making it part of the blockchain, but you are hiding its visibility to some of the nodes in the network. Especially a customer may not need to know, and it's up to you whether you want to show a customer that the gene he's putting on, the cotton of the gene is coming from a place in Multan, and maybe or maybe not. So it depends that what type of visibility you want to give to different people in the node. And who is controlling this? Let's say the retailer primarily is the one who has this whole thing set up. So he is controlling that what type of visibility you want to give to who can append what type of information. So all this is in a permission blockchain, gives you more control, so to say, over the transactions being happened. But once a transaction is being made, the cotton farmer, for example, cannot go and just delete it or amend it, because usually blockchain is append only data that once it is part of the blockchain, that just remains there forever. ठीक है ना? So
thank you.
So, please.
This system, this will be serving only for one company, like one manufacturer, or we can make this for a whole, like all companies in Pakistan.
Yeah, you can make it if, let's say, you can actually make it like if you say there is a regulator, and the regulator says that every this type of a manufacturer got to have this type of visibility to the customers. Okay, so through regulation they can do this, or the retailer by themselves, that they want to serve their customers in a better way, they can provide this type of visibility. And if not to the customer, maybe to themselves. Okay, they may want this type of visibility, but more important is the smart contract, that they don't want to fight over things that are happening in the supply chain. They just want things to happen automatically. If somebody is not meeting the timelines, not meeting the quality, they want a smart contract to automatically execute itself and penalize that person, so that you provide better quality and products to your customer. Yeah.
So in this case, who is actually buying this or implementing this blockchain system? Because somebody has to spend money to get a platform, develop this full functionality.
Yes. Look, that's what I said. Like, everybody has a software. Like, people are buying SAP and Oracle and expensive software to manage their supply chain management system. Okay, they are already spending money, and now the IBM is coming and saying that, look, because it is important, it's better that you shift to blockchain-enabled supply chain management instead of just a supply chain management software, because blockchain-enabled software would give you more traceability. And that will ultimately help you to have you improve your business processes. So that's the motivation, so to say, and that's why people are considering blockchain technology for supply chain management. Yeah, so we are developing this SCM for Shifa International Hospital, and we are incorporating blockchain into the SCM, so that because medicines and are very critical, and smart contracts is like it's for every medicine there is an expiry. Some medicine may be called back by FDA or DRAP, and so you got to build those into your smart contract that if a medicine is called back and you got to discontinue that particular medicine, and how do you figure out, and then automatically figuring out that the medicines that are being called back by a DRAP or by FDA, and you got to just stop providing those medicines to the patients, and if you have already provided, then you got to inform those patients that take that medicine, and from where these medicines
Sir, I have
are.
I have a question. So basically, what I got from the lecture from today's lecture, so we are discussing supply chain management and are embedding blockchain technology, and are discussing that if we embed in blockchain technology in supply chain management, we will be getting more good results, or our system will be better and give us good response.
Yes.
And for critical businesses, it will be
Yes.
good. So basically, blockchain management is a decentralized design that gives you record tracking, and that gives you a feature that no node can alter or hack the data.
Yes.
Basically, these 2-3 features will be embedded in supply chain management.
Yes,
एक तो ये हो जाएगा कि सर कोई रिकॉर्ड चेंज नहीं कर सकेगा, कोई हैक नहीं कर सकेगा.
उससे अहम बात है कि everybody has to make a transaction into the open ledger. Everybody has to make that transaction. ठीक है? So that you ask everyone कि जी आपने अपनी transaction को इस open ledger में record करना है.
Because it's decentralized.
डिसेंट्रलाइज है, और आपने इसकी ट्रांजैक्शन को करना है ताकि वो पूरा ट्रेस बने कि ये कहाँ से शुरू हुआ था, रॉ मटेरियल से शुरू होते होते फिनिश प्रोडक्ट्स किन स्टेजेस से गया है, किस एनवायरनमेंट से गुजरा है, कौन कौन सी कंप्लायंस इसने की हैं, कौन सी वायलेट की हैं. ठीक है ना?
सर अगर हम इसे गूगल करते हैं,
there will be a customized solution like as per their setup. Like in Pakistan एक management का बहुत बड़ा issue है, people are not ready for decentralization. अभी तक भी there is a mindset के centralized authority होनी चाहिए, overnight जाहिर है this change will not come. तो just to adopt that, अब वो एक लिमिट तक ही decentralization को भी accept करेंगी companies, most of them. So there would be a customized kind of solution like as per need, या जितनी एक कंपनी की टॉलरेंस है डिसेंट्रलाइज करने की.
नहीं, आपने अच्छा क्वेश्चन किया है कि देखिए ये जो है ना, दो चीजें हैं. एक है कि थ्रू रेगुलेटरी कंप्लायंस गवर्नमेंट फोर्सेस some of the producers to have blockchain in their supply chain management network. ठीक है, ये एक चीज है कि वो गवर्नमेंट कहती है, जैसे हमारे पास एक फूड अथॉरिटी है, फूड अथॉरिटी इज वेरी कॉशियस कि ये गोश्त सही टेम्परेचर में रखा था कि नहीं रखा था, कब खरीदा गया था, एंड दे डोंट हैव विजिबिलिटी. वो सिर्फ अंदाजा लगाते हैं कि अच्छा ये 1 साल पुराना इन्होंने फ्रीज किया हुआ है और उससे स्टेक्स बन रहे हैं, यू नो. बट देन वेरी रेयर दैट दे गो एंड फाइंड आउट. वो एक अजीब सा तरीका है कि वो छापे लगाते हैं और उधर जाते हैं और फ्रीजर खोलते हैं और फिर वो मीडिया के ऊपर लेकर आते हैं. लेकिन अगर लेट से रेगुलेटरी में वो कहें कि नहीं जी आप इसको ना, जो बड़े रेस्टोरेंट्स हैं उनको ब्लॉकचेन लेकर आनी है अपने सप्लाई चेन मैनेजमेंट में, the expensive food they are selling, people need to know कि ये जो चिकन था ये ज़िबा किस वक्त हुआ था, किस जगह पे हुआ था, उसको बस इसको किस टेम्परेचर पे रखा गया है. ठीक है, so you say नहीं ये जो, because people are buying expensive food and they eating expensive food, they have all the right to precisely know कि ये किस प्रोसेस से होकर उसकी टेबल के ऊपर आया है, कि आप अपने मोबाइल से उसको पॉइंट करें तो वो उसकी सारी आपको डिटेल देते. एक तो ये तरीका है कि थ्रू सम रेगुलेशन you force some of the suppliers, some of the retailers to have this visibility. दूसरा ये है कि there is business and I want to increase my business and I want to give my customer better experience. ठीक है, so I say कि मैं blockchain technology use कर रहा हूँ और and for many reasons कि मैं चाहता हूँ आसान हो जाए मेरे लिए, जो मेरी डिफरेंट ट्रांजैक्शंस होनी है ब्लॉकचेन में उनकी विजिबिलिटी मुझे भी आए, बाकी लोगों को भी हो, और स्पेशली जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशन है वो मैं लड़ाई झगड़ा करके ना करूं और वो ऑटोमेटिकली एग्जीक्यूट हो रहा हो थ्रू स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट। तो ये दोनों यूज केसेस चलेंगे कि पीपल विल गेट मोटिवेटेड। जैसा मैंने कहा, वेयर वी स्टैंड टुडे, दिस इज वेयर द वर्ल्ड इज मूविंग। सो अब ये ब्लॉकचेन इज गोइंग टू बी आफ्टर क्रिप्टो करेंसी, supply chain management is going to be a very good use case for people to use blockchain in it. और ये नहीं हो सकता कि अगर कहीं पे इसको इस्तेमाल किया जाना शुरू हो गया है और हो रहा है जिस तरह से, तो हम कहीं पीछे रह जाएं। अल्टीमेटली पीपल वुड स्टार्ट अप्रिशिएटिंग the type of traceability and visibility it provides.
So how
this will ultimately increase trust level between customer and retailer as well.
Trust level होगा, आपकी प्रोडक्ट की क्वालिटी इंप्रूव करेगी और आपके कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशंस होंगे। जी सर।
Sir, I have a question. How this blockchain technology has been implemented in cryptocurrency? Like, was you can say that in mining, sir, these days, Pi mining is on the verge, or you can say that if you use Binance app for cryptocurrency trading, when you place an order or when you sell your currency, you are buying BTC, BNB, whatsoever. You are going on peer-to-peer trade. So that's the role model of blockchain.
देखिए, ब्लॉकचेन की बहुत सारे ना यूज केसेस हैं जिसमें इट इज लाइक एन इंटरनेट। ईमेल इज जस्ट वन एप्लीकेशन ऑफ इंटरनेट, ठीक है ना? But then you do browse, then you do zooming, then you do team, then you do this, then you do that. So there are so many different use cases for you to use internet technology. Same is the case with blockchain. Cryptocurrency is only one specific use case of blockchain technology, ठीक है, जो कि हम थ्रू आउट पढ़ते रहेंगे। अभी जो हमने ब्लॉकचेन में पढ़ा वो सिर्फ ये पढ़ा कि हैश 256 किस तरह से कैलकुलेट होता है, जो कि प्रूफ ऑफ वर्क होता है। और वो प्रूफ ऑफ वर्क में दे हैव ऑल द ट्रांजैक्शंस जो कि पीयर टू पीयर हो रही हैं, उनको, क्योंकि दे हैव टू मेक कॉपी ऑफ द ट्रांजैक्शंस टू एवरीबॉडी इन द नेटवर्क। सो उनको वैलिडेशन करके ब्लॉक में डाल के उसको अपेंड करना होता है। दिस हाउ द ब्लॉकचेन इज इम्प्लीमेंटेड इन क्रिप्टो करेंसी के। वो जो जितनी ट्रांजैक्शन है, दे आर नॉट वैलिड ट्रांजैक्शन अनलेस दे आर पार्ट ऑफ अ ब्लॉक इन अ ब्लॉकचेन। तो उनकी वैलिडेशन जो है वो थ्रू प्रूफ ऑफ वर्क होती है, जिसमें वो इतने लीडिंग जीरोस होते हैं, वो ट्रांजैक्शन आती हैं बीच में। और अगर वो इफ इट बिकम्स योर ट्रांजैक्शन पर्टिकुलर, इट बिकम्स पार्ट ऑफ अ वैलिड ब्लॉकचेन, ओनली देन the actually money is transferred from you to the person you are sending, otherwise you have to wait, ठीक है? और तो वो एक स्पेसिफिक ब्लॉकचेन इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करने का तरीका है जो हम थ्रू आउट इस कोर्स में हम पढ़ते रहेंगे कि क्रिप्टो करेंसी किस तरह से इम्प्लीमेंट हो रही है एक एक करके। जैसा आज आई इंटेंड के I'll teach you how to do a digital signature, that how the digital signature is done once you are making a transaction, how that transaction actually is basically is made. So we'll study that too. तो ये, लेकिन अब ये जो हम ब्लॉकचेन की टेक्नोलॉजी की बात कर रहे हैं, so next what I also intend to do is to actually show you the software, okay, that does
right sir, thank you,
so that आपको थोड़ी विजिबिलिटी आ जाए उस सॉफ्टवेयर की भी इंशाल्लाह। सो अब ये आज जो हमने करना भी है ना, वो ये है कि once you say you are a node in the blockchain network, so what is meant by that? Even if you are using cryptocurrency, the who you are a public key, private key, सही है? So you are a private key in and something which is very sacred, and you must keep it to yourself. So you have a unique ID, you have a private key, and it generates the public and private key. So every node in the blockchain network is primarily somebody. If it is a permission blockchain, he has, like, say it's the organic cotton supplier in Turkey, and he's one of the node, and this is his private key. So whenever he wants to make a transaction, it is to be signed by his private key, okay? And then there is a public key which is known to everybody in the network. So everybody who wants to unopen, so to say, his transaction.
सर ये पब्लिक सर ये जो पब्लिक कीज हैं और प्राइवेट कीज हैं, ये आपकी यूनिक आईडी के ऊपर बनती हैं या किस तरह होती हैं ये?
नहीं, ये बेसिकली ये अभी आज हम देखते हैं कि ये यूनिक आईडी के ऊपर नहीं बनती हैं, लेकिन एवरी यूनिक आईडी हैज has a set of keys, 2 keys. One is public key and a private key. There is a software that generates it. ठीक है? तो एक सॉफ्टवेयर है जो कि आपको पब्लिक प्राइवेट की पेयर जनरेट करके देती है, which is your digital wallet software. ठीक है? It generates a set of keys. Private key you keep it to yourself. You never share it with anybody. Sharing this means that you are doomed. Okay. Public key is something that you just send it to everybody, that this is who I am, this is my public key. Okay. Because to validate your transaction, your public key will be used by everybody. So this is what we are going to see today, that what is the role of this private and public keys in a blockchain network. सही, ये अभी हम आके आज इसको थोड़ा सा इंशाल्लाह देखना शुरू करेंगे.
Excuse me, sir. ये जो डिजिटल वॉलेट की आपने बात की है, जो इजी पैसा और जैज कैश है, ये डिजिटल वॉलेट में आपकी कैटेगरी में आते हैं?
देखें, ये not really the digital wallet of cryptocurrency. ठीक है, इसमें तो फिर एक सेंट्रल वो बॉडी इन्वॉल्व होती है ना. They may give you a unique ID, but then it is the central authority which validates. But in a cryptocurrency, there is no central authority. So it is just your private key that basically is very, very key to who you are. Okay? तो ये इसी पैसा और इन चीजों में तो इस काइंड ऑफ अ माइक्रो बैंक which is linked with you, and और वो बीच में आपकी आईडी की वेरिफिकेशन कर रहा है कि यस यू आर द पर्सन, और उसके थ्रू आपकी ट्रांजैक्शंस हो रही हैं.
सर, इसमें एक क्वेश्चन है कि how secure is this Jazz Cash or Easy Paisa? Because right now I have received a message from my some of relative कि उसके Jazz Cash में से उसको एक मैसेज आया और कि आपका 8,000 and 5,000 का कोई इनाम निकला है, and he has lost that money after a transaction or message or something like that. Can it be so easily hacked?
I'm though not sure. लेकिन जिन लोगों ने बनाया है ना, they must have kept के हैकिंग इस तरह से ना हो सके, क्योंकि जो फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम्स होते हैं they usually are very, very strong. Hacking them is not an easy thing to do. Yeah, but it's not that they cannot be hacked. Like still अभी ATMs भी hack हो जाती हैं. So I'm not saying they cannot be hacked, but they cannot be hacked easily. And obviously आमतौर पे phishing होती है कि यूजर जो है वो को टेम्प्ट किया जाता है कि he does something and only then he will be hacked usually.
Exactly.
So जी, तो आमतौर पे फिशिंग के थ्रू हैक किया जाता है, तो people got to be very cautious about these type of messages, not to click on anything and to send something somewhere. So
sir, a small little question. ये जो हमने सर प्राइवेट नेटवर्क की बात की थी, परमिशन नेटवर्क में, जिसमें हर नोड होती है और हर नोड के प्रिविलेजेस जो है वो डिसाइड किए जा सकते हैं. माय क्वेश्चन इज कि वो एक जो ब्लॉक पब्लिश होगा उसका कुछ कंटेंट मास्क हो सकता है या वो पूरा ब्लॉक मास्क होगा?
ठीक है, तो इसके अंदर नॉन्स जो है वो नहीं होगा.
परमिशन ब्लॉक्स में कुछ भी मास्क हो सकता है. ठीक है, एनीथिंग यू इंटेंड टू बी मास्क टू अदर्स, it can happen. So आपके पास access control के rights होते हैं कि what access you want to give to whom. ठीक है, so you have usually the right to do that. सही है. तो
अच्छा सर, एक सवाल था सर. अभी आप प्राइवेट पब्लिक की के बारे में बता रहे थे सर. मैं कुछ अर्से से करता रहा हूँ क्रिप्टो करेंसीज में जस्ट फॉर हॉबी देखने के लिए, तो मुझे थोड़ा सा कॉन्सेप्ट है. एक चीज मैं क्लेरिफाई करना चाह रहा था, शायद आप आगे करें भी सही, कि जैसे मैं किसी भी बिटकॉइन है, किसी भी इथेरियम ब्लॉकचेन का वॉलेट कहीं से भी क्रिएट कर सकता हूँ. बहुत एप्लीकेशंस हैं. जो पेयर वो मुझे बना के देगा वो यूनिक होगा मेरे लिए. अब वो दोबारा भी नहीं बन सकता, तो वो कैसे इंश्योर होता है कि वो दोबारा ना बने?
जी, वो इस तरह इंश्योर होता है कि ये वो रैंडमली जनरेट करता है. ठीक है, सो जो ये सारा कीज की जनरेशन है ना, सो यू मे जनरेट देम एज मेनी टाइम एज यू वांट. Today I'll give you a link to a software where you can generate a public private key pair, no matter how many times you generate, because such a big number, its probability of happening that again is almost impossible.
Yes, I was that can it happen, but it can happen that pair can be generated.
Very almost impossible कि वो इतना बड़ा नंबर जो है ना वो
सर ये बेसिकली इसके पीछे एल्गोरिथम्स हो रहे होते हैं, जिस तरह RSA एल्गोरिथम्स है. तो ये जब भी वो की जनरेट होगी तो वो डिफरेंट ही होती है, यूनिक होती है.
वो ऑलमोस्ट गारंटीड है कि डिफरेंट होगी. ठीक है, क्या पॉसिबिलिटी है कि सेम हो सके? यस, देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी, लेकिन वो कितनी रेयर है वो पता नहीं. 1 in 2 कितने ट्रिलियन समथिंग है कि वो की जो है वो सेम जनरेट हो, सही है। सो अब ये देखिए, लेट्स से कि यहाँ पे अगर इफ नाउ यू हैव इवन मोर better understanding of what is happening, there is a fiber supply, there may be multiple fiber suppliers, like somebody is providing organic cotton, somebody is providing acrylic and polyester and wool, and the transactions are happening between this and yarn manufacturer, and the two types. One is the material actually flowing out and the information that is going. And so every transaction happens is a transaction that becomes part of the block. So there is a organic cotton chain. For example, this guy is making a transaction. So this is the transaction. So sender, receiver, and the amount has to be received by him. So वो transaction is blockchain का हिस्सा बन जाएगी, all the information, and then it gets to these multiple spinning facilities that you may have. तो yarn produce कर रहे हैं, वो अगले transaction का हिस्सा बन जाएंगी. So you have, so the blocks are being added like in cryptocurrency, but now these blocks are actual transactions that are being happening. They may require like they may have like some information, and may also have the transaction of money which is going from one customer to another customer, or ये transaction इस तरह से चलना शुरू हो जाएंगे. And finally you have a customer who is buying something from a retailer. So he gets and depending upon how much information you want to reveal to him, आप उसको उतनी information की visibility दे सकते हैं to a customer who actually is making the last transaction apparently in this blockchain network. सही है. So this is a typical transaction, which is a sender private key basically makes a transaction, and it has some amount, and this is the recipient unique ID to whom it is being sent. So you basically affirm your transaction using your private key. So we are going to learn about this public private key. So ये थोड़ा सा बड़ा scenario, like somebody was asking, okay, there is a retailer, and retailer have multiple products. Because it's a retailer, it may have a jean coming from somewhere, a t-shirt coming from somewhere else, and a shoes coming from some other brand. So a retailer may have multiple, so to say, channels, and these channels are, for example, this is a channel with multiple peers, and these are the peers. It has its own ledger and own contract. So S1 is the smart contract, which is being governed for channel 1, which is one set of products. And it has this order services where he's placing orders for a product, and it has its own blockchain network. This channel 2 may have its own blockchain network with its own ledger. L2 and own smart contract may have different. Somebody was asking this. So this is a smart contract, and there may be a customer who has access to both that, depending upon whether he's buying a sweater or a shoe. So he may have access to this. So so there is a cluster for retailer product 1 has the channels, associated players. It has another channel with other associated players. There may be some commonality. Where he has like multiple channels are being governed, and so multiple smart contracts, multiple ledgers. So it becomes that complex end of the day, where a retailer may be managing multiple smart contracts, multiple ledgers, but ultimately giving visibility to the customer and serving a customer in a better way. So this is the paper which I just discussed. Working of the system, what I have already explained. And these are like the software, actually, they have written a software which shows you this is 0th block. This is block number 1. जी.
सर नमाज काफी जा रहे हैं.
जी ऐसा करते हैं कि नमाज के लिए हम बिल्कुल ब्रेक कर लेते हैं 10-15 मिनट की.
सर कितना रह गया ये?
मैं थोड़ा सा शुरू करना चाह रहा हूँ डिजिटल सिग्नेचर, और हम लेट्स से 10 more minutes अगर हम कर लें.
So क्योंकि सर नमाज चले कर लेते हैं. Okay.
10 minutes. Let's do 10 more minutes and then we just take off. See?
Okay.
So अब देखिए ये इस तरह से नजर आते हैं blocks ना. So this is one block, this is another block, this is another block. और previous block का hash इसके अंदर है, previous block का hash है, previous block का hash है. Depending upon the proof of work, how the proof of work is happening, but these are the block. Every block is recording some transactions. ये वो paper है. This is the link. Like if you click on this link, it'll take you to the paper. And as I mentioned, that I'll give you 2 weeks to come up with your own blockchain-based framework where you choose one specific use case and write about it. And उसका design करके आपने देना है मुझे. अच्छा, अब हम let's take 10 minutes to start this, and next time we come back and start learning from here, which is digital signature क्या होते हैं and public key cryptography क्या होती है. So this is a very famous guy. His name is Alan Turing. So Alan Turing was a PhD from Princeton, and this what you see on your right is an Enigma machine, which is a cipher machine, which was used in Second World War by Germans. Like you press a key and it would lit another alphabet. Let's say you press D, it may lit P. You press D again, it will lit some other letter. So it's totally random. And these spindles and are making sure that every time it generates a random number. It's setting basically encrypt the message. So they're typing the message, it gets encrypted, and they write what is being lit. And with the same setting, once what is being lit is punched, they get the actual message. So this was the guy, is a very famous guy, and we keep hearing his name at least, Turing test and Turing complete, and who played a crucial role in cracking intercepted coded message that enabled the allies to defeat the Axis powers in many crucial engagements. And German did not figure out that the message has been decoded, and all their deployments and moves were already known. So this guy played a very key role because of, and not only him, but there are other people as well. Then these are the three guys, the three MIT professors, Revis, Shamir, and Edelman, which came up with an RSA algorithm, an amazing algorithm. So, so we need to learn about digital signature, and many people think that digital signature is this, that you use a pen and digitally affirm a signature and it becomes your digital signature. Actually, it is not. Okay, it is obviously, it is also not. A digital signature is a bunch of numbers like what you see here. Okay, so this is a digital signature, and it is even more powerful than what you sign with your pen. And today and in the next inshallah class, we are going to figure out that why digital signatures are that critical and crucial. So this is a digital signature. Okay, so what you see, and obviously this does not make any sense, is this bunch of random numbers, and many of these constitute a PGP digital signature. So how do you affirm your signature on a document, and which also happens in blockchain and Bitcoin, that you have a transaction or a message and you have your private key. So with your private key, you encrypt this or a message digest. It basically is as if you are affirming your signature on a document, and we'll see how this happens. And the receiver wants to check whether this message actually comes from you or not. So it takes this, and which is a message plus your digital signature. And with your public key, that is the magic in this, that with your public key, it can affirm that actually this message or the transaction has come from you. So your public private key pair, private you keep it to yourself, and public you just shout it to everybody in the network to know that this is your public key. So your public key can be used to ensure that the transaction that has happened has actually come from you, or the message that has been sent actually comes from you. So it is just like your digital signature, even more powerful, because nobody can go, even you, go back to your message and amend it. You cannot even change a dot in your message. If you do that, it'll just change everything. So digital signature. जी
सर एक क्वेश्चन इसी वाले से सर देखें अभी आप देखें अभी पिछले 3-4 सालों में जैसे बहुत सारी एक्सचेंजेस बन चुकी हैं क्रिप्टो को खरीदने के लिए या बिटकॉइन को खरीदने के लिए, जैसे बाइनेंस है, रॉबिनहुड है या कूकॉइन है, जो भी है सर। अब जैसे 2013-14 की बात अगर की जाए या उससे पहले तो खैर जरा पुरानी हो जाएगी, उस वक्त किसी ने अगर 1 या 2 या 3 या 100 बिटकॉइन जितने भी खरीदे थे सर, उसने एक्सचेंज तो तब जाहिर है नहीं थी इतनी, तो उसने फिर कैसे वो सेव रखा? किसी ने भी ली वो तो उसने किस तरह अपने वो बिटकॉइन को सेव रखा, कहाँ पे रखा, उसके पास क्या प्रूफ था कि उसके पास बिटकॉइन है?
This your public private key pair. ठीक है, your public private key pair and the transaction that is there. जितनी आज तक बिटकॉइन में ट्रांजैक्शंस हुई हैं वो सारा उस ब्लॉकचेन का हिस्सा है. Okay, from day one, it's a few gigabyte of transactions which you can download actually. So you can download all the transactions and see. So that is the point, that every transaction that has ever happened, ठीक है, is part of the blockchain. वो उस blockchain का हिस्सा है. और
तो सर अभी जो हम जो एक्सचेंज के थ्रू लेते हैं तो उसका डाटा कहाँ पे होता है? एक्सचेंज के पास
डाटा भी अल्टीमेटली एक्सचेंज जो है वो आपके साथ फास्ट ट्रांजैक्शंस करता है, लेकिन एक्सचेंज हैज टू पुट दैट ट्रांजैक्शन इनटू द बिटकॉइन नेटवर्क. ठीक है, सो एवरी ट्रांजैक्शन हैज टू बी पार्ट ऑफ द टू द बिटकॉइन नेटवर्क. सो अब वो एक्सचेंज की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी हो जाती है कि वो उस ट्रांजैक्शन को बिटकॉइन के नेटवर्क में डाले, आपकी ट्रांजैक्शन को. ठीक है ना? So we'll spend more time on this as we go past this. So ये अच्छे questions हैं कि अब किस तरह से वो transaction होती किस तरह से है, for example, and how it is part of the blockchain which has been just there since it's like started. So it is the electronic verification of the sender. The sender has actually sent this much money or this message to the receiver. So there are 3 purposes to digital signature. One is authentication. A digital signature gives the receiver reasons to believe that message was created and sent by the claim sender. That if I am affirming a digital signature on a message, you would know that the message has come from me and not from anybody else. And we show how it happens. This is non-repudiation. With digital signature, the sender, even sender cannot just deny कि नहीं मैंने तो भेजा ही नहीं था. You cannot say that I have not sent this message. Okay, because it is sent by using his private key, and if he has compromised his private key, then he has gone. So the third is integrity, that digital signature ensures that the message was not altered in a transit, that nobody can change that message. Okay, so to understand a digital signature, we need to understand public key cryptography. See?
सर बेसिकली जो स्लिप्स हमें बैंक की तरफ से मोस्टली मिलती हैं उनके नीचे लिखा होता है दिस इज इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली साइंड एंड सिग्नेचर इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड, वो बेसिकली यही चीज है.
Yes, वो यही चीज होती है कि it is electronically signed means it has your digital signature on it. So yes, so it does not require any signature. It has something which is stronger than a signature. So there is a symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption. ठीक है? We need to understand asymmetric encryption to understand digital signature. And we go back to our example of Alice and Bob. अभी क्या होता है? Let's say Alice wants to send a document. Word में आप document बनाते हैं, and then it says use a password to encrypt it. So you put a password. Word में एक option होती है कि use a password to encrypt your document. So you use a password or a phrase, or usually लोग दूसरे का telephone number डाल देते हैं. And it basically encrypts the document with that phrase. Okay, और फिर आप इसको SMS कर देते हैं कि ये पासवर्ड लगा हुआ है इस फाइल पे, तो you can use your telephone number or my telephone number or whatever password you have to basically open this up. So it clicks on the document asks for a password, so he put that password and then the password decrypts the document. Okay? This is kind of a symmetric encryption where a common key is to be known to Bob, and only then he can open the document. And if anybody figures out the key, then he can also open the document, because only he has to put that phrase or this password to the document, and then the document will be accessible to him. So to counter this, asymmetric encryption is used. And asymmetric encryption is like a public key is like a mailbox that everybody knows that this is your mailbox. Okay, so anyone wants to send a message would send a message, drop it here, but you have only the key to this, and you can only open and read the message. So these three guys did such an amazing thing that today, whenever you access internet, so you are using RSA algorithm. It is that critical and crucial that it is all you are using Facebook, your Twitter, your Zoom, you do anything, YouTube. You primarily you are using, or the browser is using an algorithm which is designed by these three guys, which is called an RSA algorithm. Okay, so the RSA algorithm is so core to today's internet that it basically enables your information security without you knowing that what is happening at the back end. You don't even see the algorithm which is creating the public keys, and the public keys you are using of Facebook and Twitter. And okay, so whenever you make a session to the Facebook, you are using Facebook public key to encrypt a message that goes to the Facebook, and Facebook has a specific private key for you that it uses that to open up the message, or whatever the Facebook wants to send a message to you. It is being encrypted using an RSA algorithm. So in RSA algorithm, so every user has two set of keys. One is Alice private key and Alice public key. Private key, Alice must keep it to herself, and then this is what is the secret which she has to safeguard. Okay, the compromising on private key means just compromising on everything you have, kind of. So same is the case with Bob, that Bob has a private key and a public key. Then they exchange their public keys. So the Bob sends its public key to Alice, and Alice sends its public key to Bob. So now Alice has a set of key pairs and Bob's public key. And same is the case with Bob, that he has its own key pairs and his Alice public key. So now, and this is the most innovative part of the RS algorithms that these three guys develop, that if Bob wants to send a message to Alice, or Alice wants to send a message to Bob, let's say. So
Alice, प्राइवेट सर ये जो सर ये पब्लिक की तो शेयर कर सकते हैं, लेकिन प्राइवेट की भी शेयर करेंगे या एक ही?
नहीं, वो प्राइवेट की नहीं शेयर करें, प्राइवेट की शेयर की तो खत्म है कहानी, ठीक है? सिर्फ प्राइवेट, हाँ, प्राइवेट की मस्ट नॉट बी शेयर. ओके, सो अगर हमसे प्राइवेट लॉस हो जाए तो फिर अच्छा, फिर आप अगर वो कॉम्प्रोमाइज होगी तो आप गए. जिस तरह से आपके कोई भी ट्रांजैक्शन कर सकते हैं आपके बिटकॉइन, बिकॉज अगर आपकी प्राइवेट की कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो गई तो आप गए. एंड दैट्स दी बेसिकली वल्नरेबिलिटीज के, अगर किसी ने आपकी प्राइवेट की निकलवा ली आपसे तो बस आप खत्म है. फिर आपके जो if these are bitcoins, then means कि आपके bitcoins गए सारे. सही है? So now what happens is that if Alice wants to send a message to Bob, okay, so Alice will encrypt that message using Bob's public key. Okay, so public key encrypt करेगी and it'll send it to Bob. Nobody can decrypt that message. Though it is being encrypted using Bob's public key, and that is amazing. Okay, uski public key says a message which is being encrypted, and everybody knows Bob's public key, but Bob's public key, which is actually encrypting a message, cannot decrypt it. So that's the most amazing part of the RS algorithm, that encrypted with Bob's public key is sent back, and Bob uses his private key to decrypt this message. Okay, and it just needs to keep their private keys very safe, because that gives them this security. Okay, they are to be kept very, very safe. The private keys are to be kept very, very safe. So it is used in HTTPS website. Whenever you access a website, RSA is used, Bitcoin, RSA is used, PGP, SSH. So all these uses. Now there is a digital signature. We'll cover this and then we just end today's lecture. Now let's see that how a digital signature is made. And this is also very interesting. So digital signature uses asymmetric cryptography, which I just explained, which means the public key algorithm is employed. And there is a pair of keys, which Alice has a pair of keys and Bob has a pair of keys. And every person in this network, in a blockchain network, has a pair of public and private keys. Okay. So now there is a message, a transaction, for example. Okay. So this is a plain text which has the transaction. So this transaction is being hashed using hash SHA-256 algorithm. Okay, so it may be a big message, it may be a letter, it may be a transaction, whatever, but it is hashed. And once hashed, you know, it becomes a 256-bit number, which is called a digest. So a message which you want to sign gets into SHA-256 being hashed, and you get a number out of this, which is called the digest. Then Bob uses its private key to encrypt this message. Okay, Bob uses its private key to encrypt this message. Here, the purpose is not to encrypt the message. So this is important to understand. In Bitcoin, all transactions are in open ledger. Everybody can read that this sender has sent this much money to this sender. So nobody is interested in encrypting the message. Okay, so message goes as is. Message goes as is. It is the digest which gets encrypted and changes into a digital signature. This is called a digital signature. So what is a digital signature? It is the message sent to a SHA-256 being hashed, converted into a number, and that number is encrypted. So you get a digital signature, which is again a number. A digital signature is nothing but a number, and comes with it the actual message, which is in plain text, which is not encrypted. This is what is sent to Alice. Okay, this is what is sent to Alice. What Alice does is uses Bob's public key to decrypt this, decrypt the digital signature. Once digital signature is decrypted, it converted into a number, which is a digest. But Alice is not sure whether this number basically is a valid digital signature. This is a valid digital signature or not. So what it does is it has the message of this, the plain text. So this is the message or a transaction. So it takes this plain text and input it to the SHA-256 algorithm and get a digest, which was done here. So if this digest and this digest are same, then Alice says, yes, the transaction is a valid transaction and it has actually come from Bob. Or if it is a message, this is a valid message being digitally signed correctly, and because I have validated this and this is the right message, and you say the transaction is okay. So this is how the transaction happens. If there is a mismatch, you know that there is something wrong. Either Bob has not sent it, somebody else has sent it, saying that the Bob has sent it, or somebody has changed the amount of money, for example, the transaction, or something has been changed. So nobody will accept this as a transaction. So this is very interesting. Inshallah, next time we come and we take it from here. And we get into more nitty-gritties because I very strongly believe that if you have this comfort in understanding the underneath technology which is used in blockchain, then you feel more comfortable. And RSA is, though RSA is not used in blockchain, by the way, it is another public key cryptography which is used for perhaps some patent infringement perspective. They used another algorithm which is elliptic curve cryptography, and we will study about that too. Thank you very much. Perhaps so we meet again, inshallah, next time. So, ठीक है जी?
Thank you, sir.
ठीक सर, थैंक यू।
पहले अपलोड कर दीजिए।
सर 2 छोटे से क्वेश्चन हैं सर। एक तो ये बता दीजिए कि परमिशन ब्लॉकचेन के अंदर जो है वो नॉन्स जो है उसके होने की जरूरत नहीं है क्योंकि प्रूफ ऑफ वर्क नहीं चाहिए।
देखिए हो भी सकती है, नहीं भी हो सकती, इट्स अप टू यू के प्रूफ ऑफ वर्क आपने किस तरह से करना है। ठीक है,
अच्छा,
यू में स्टिल वांट कि नहीं ये 5 लोग हैं, ये 5 लोग प्रूफ ऑफ वर्क करेंगे और फिर इसके अंदर ऐड होगा, या आप कहें कि नहीं हम ये नोड है जो कि ऑथेंटिकेट कर देगी। ठीक है,
लेकिन चूंकि जी परमिशन में हमें बेसिकली सिस्टम को फास्ट भी रखना है ना, जितना हम उसको जो है वो नॉन्स डालते जाएंगे वो स्लो।
थोड़ा सा उसको आसान बना सकते हैं कि उसकी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी इतनी ना रखें, लेकिन आप कहें अच्छा ये 10 नोड हैं, इनमें से ये प्रूफ ऑफ वर्क करेंगे, कौन सी नोड करेगी, क्योंकि है डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड ना, सो यू नीड टू डिसाइड वेदर इट इज जस्ट 1 पर्सन और आउट ऑफ 10 नोड्स anybody can do this, then you have to define के how will you select which node has actually done it.
ठीक हो गया सर। दूसरा क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि अब ये तो एक लेजर जनरेट हो जाएगा जिसको कोई भी जो है वापस जाके चेंज नहीं कर सकता, लेकिन कुछ सप्लाई चेन के केसेस के अंदर इस तरह जिस तरह वेस्टेज हो गई, एक्सपायरीज हो गई, जिस तरह हमने अभी मेडिकल की बात की कि दवाइयां जो आ रही हैं तो वो उन सब की एक्सपायरी के साथ जो है वो खत्म हो जाएगा वो, तो
वो
उस
फिर एक
वेस्टेज को
ट्रांजैक्शन आएगी ब्लॉकचेन में। ठीक है, सो दिस विल बी अनदर ट्रांजैक्शन इन द ब्लॉकचेन कि वो उसका आपका स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कहेगा अगर कोई एक्सपायरी हुई है तो आप उसको ट्रांजैक्ट करें ब्लॉकचेन में, सो दैट एवरीबॉडी नोज कि ये जो थे ये अब इसमें से बिकॉज ऑफ दिस रीजन ये आउट हो गई हैं हमारे स्टॉक टेकिंग में से।
तो टोटल लेजर जो है वो दोबारा अपडेट होगा पूरा लेजर।
उस लेजर के अंदर एक अपेंड हो जाएगा ना ये वाला कि ये वाली जो है वो अब ऐसे हो गई हैं।
थैंक यू।
ठीक है जी।
सर एक क्वेश्चन था ये जिसमें आप ये डिजिटल सिग्नेचर वाला बता रहे थे।
जी।
इसमें ये जो प्लेन टेक्स्ट है ये क्यों उसको भेज दिया? ये तो अगर उसको
प्लेन टेक्स्ट इसलिए भेजा कि आपकी ट्रांजैक्शन हर एक को नजर आनी चाहिए ब्लॉकचेन में ना, बिकॉज ओपन लेजर है ना, तो एवरीबॉडी शुड सी कि कौन सी ट्रांजैक्शन किसने किसके लिए की है। तो वो ट्रांजैक्शन को इन क्वेश्चन नहीं है कि आपने उसको छुपाना है, आपने सिर्फ ये मेक श्योर करना है कि ये ट्रांजैक्शन ये बंदा है जिसकी ये प्राइवेट की है उसने कमिट की है। ठीक है, और ये चेंज नहीं हुई है, सो एवरीबॉडी कैन जस्ट चेक कि हाँ वाकई ये इसने इसको इतने पैसे दे दिए हैं।
अदरवाइज वो ये भी कर सकता था कि जो साइफर टेक्स्ट था उसको वो कर देता, यानी अपनी प्राइवेट की से।
इसमें आप ट्रांजैक्शन को एनक्रिप्ट नहीं करना चाहते, यू वांट एवरीबॉडी टू नो व्हाट ट्रांजैक्शन हैज हैपेंड।
राइट ठीक है,
इस वजह से। ठीक है जी,
थैंक यू।
चलें जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच, इंशाल्लाह विल सी यू
नेक्स्ट लेक्चर के लिए कोई असाइनमेंट तो नहीं है सर?
थैंक यू वेरी मच
जी। नेक्स्ट लेक्चर के लिए असाइनमेंट है जो मैंने ब्लॉकचेन की दी है, इसकी सप्लाई चेन मैनेजमेंट, मैं जरा इसका टेक्स्ट लिख के आपको भेजता हूं सबको ग्रुप पे।
नेक्स्ट इन प्लेस होगी ना, यानी इन फेस टू फेस क्लास होगी ना नेक्स्ट?
जी इंशाल्लाह फेस टू फेस होगी। ओके जी, खुदा हाफिज।
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर, अल्लाह हाफिज।